Howdy, I'm Jason with Off-Road Wizard, and today we are building a skid plate for our gas tank. Stay tuned. All right, so it's going to be a hot one today. It's going to be like over 100 degrees today, and I don't have AC in this thing. What I wouldn't get for AC right now. So the garage door will probably stay closed because it is sweltering outside. It's not cold in here though. Okay, today we are going to be building the skid plate underneath, and then we are also going to do the straps, the upper straps to hold the tank in place if we were to happen to roll or flip over or anything like that. So the straps that I'm going to use for the top are actually holding up the tank right now, so we're going to measure for the skid plate underneath. So we'll get it on the lift here and get it up in the air so we can see and start measuring some stuff on where we have to mount to. So here goes.
I've been working on this Jeep for probably about 6 years now, and every once in a while it's just nice to do a project that's kind of short, simple, and can get done in a decent amount of time. I've been working on the wiring for probably about a month now, and it's nice just to step back, tackle a project that's easy to do and won't take very long time. And usually we do them in about a day, if not maybe a weekend, and then you got instant results, and it's nice to see. So it makes you feel like you're making progress on something. These are also nice for beginner projects that are simple fabrication that aren't life-threatening. If you mess it up, you just can start back over again. Or if it fails on you, you're not worried about destroying something of extreme value.
So we need to measure our distances. I like to leave a little bit of space between the skid plate and the gas tank. You could put the skid plate right up to the gas tank. This is pretty thick. The other one's pretty thick. The two metals together should technically do pretty good. I like to give a little bit of a gap just in case those little dents here and there, they don't actually get into the tank. I think you'd be fine either way, but this is just me. So anyway, you're going to measure all your distances, all of your angles, all that good stuff like that. I'm lucky I've already bent this piece of metal around it right there, and so I'm just going to reuse. I'm just going to lay that on the side and use that. But if you didn't, you could always just do that with a real thin piece of metal. It's just bend it and then contour it around, and then you can just transfer that to a skid plate. If it has a bunch of little weird warps and stuff like that, you might want to make it a little different. However, you would go to the lowest setting and just make it straight across, and probably do some sort of blocking between where the gas tank is and the skid plate is going to be. If, like, for instance, you had like a hump that was down here or something like that and it came up, you would want to just go straight. I don't necessarily think that I would want to go up and contour it. I mean, you could, but it would be way easier just to go straight across, and I think you'd be okay. Usually they're tucked up pretty decent. So mine hangs pretty low, but that's because I wanted 15 gallons, and so we had to do what we had to do. So anyway, I'm going to go through and measure all of these measurements here. That measurement is 4 1/4. So you see that the thing sits like this. This is the back, this is the front. And so this distance here is approximately 4 1/4. So this right there. So, which is perfect. So I'm just going to basically just make these a little bit longer. Probably only, not even a 1/4 inch distance. I'm probably just going to do like maybe 1/8 of an inch, just to give a little bit of a gap between that and that. So, but anyway, you measure this measurement, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one.
When measuring all these, I always give myself an extra like inch or two just in case. Each bend is going to take up a little bit of material, so it's never going to be exact. So if you, for instance, if you had a piece that was bent 90 degrees and the two pieces added up to 12 inches, the bend, if you just measure a 12-inch piece, then when you make that bend actually takes up some of the inches or some of the measurements. So you'll probably end up with a piece that's like 11 3/4, and so you'll just be slightly short. So you kind of got to factor that into your equation. Whenever I measure those to length, I always give myself an extra inch, at least, probably 2, just for all of these different bends and any mistakes that I may have made. I don't waste a whole piece. you'll see here later on when I actually start to bend this that I actually, after each bend, make a new measurement, simply because I'm not sure how much I'm taking up, how much material I'm taking up in my bends. I unfortunately don't have a bender that will bend that wide or that thick of stainless steel, so we kind of have to improvise. So I'm sandwiching this between a couple of pieces of metal that I have. You can use any metal as long as it's fairly straight and flat, and then I'm just hammering it down right along that seam. If you're using a metal that's thinner, then this won't be a problem. It'll bend fairly easy. The other option is to score it along your seam mark with a grinder. Just cut about halfway through, kind of make a V shape out of it, and then it'll bend a lot easier. If you do that though, you're going to want to weld that seam back up again to get the strength back into it. I didn't want to weld on this at all. I wanted to try and do this all one piece without any scores on it, so I didn't have to go back through. So you can see here I'm remeasuring everything. My bend is rounder than I want it to be, so I'm going to end up taking up a lot more metal than I had anticipated. So after each bend, I'm going to remeasure from where that bend ends to where the next one starts, and then make new marks along that. I wasn't actually off by too much, but it did make a difference at the end. I think at the end I ended probably a good ½ inch longer than I had anticipated being if I just used my straight measurements. When bending a small piece like this, you don't have a whole lot of leverage, so anything you can do to add a little bit of leverage to that piece is going to be helpful, to say the least. So here you can see I'm using some clamps to try and give me a little bit more leverage on it to get some bend into it. This was not easy. It wasn't fun. It's just a lot of hammering and a lot of rebending and a lot of hammering, and but you know, that's what happens when you do want to do the things you want to do the way you want to do it. And my stupid table's on wheels too, so every time I kept hitting it, it kept sliding over, so I have to pull it back. I have some feet on there, but the feet don't work real well. So anyway, you make do with what you got, right? Alright, so this next part isn't exactly the safest way to do it, but I could not get that little tiny piece to bend. Every time I'd hit it, it just flexed back over, so I needed something to hold it as I bent it, where it would stay and not just wiggle back and forth. So we have to strap up to it, ratchet that thing down, put some tension on it, hit it with a hammer a few times, put some more tension on it, hit it with a hammer, put some more tension on it, and it worked. Just be careful if you choose to do that, just in case that thing slips. But it worked. So about here, I'm thinking I'm in the market for a big bender. See, that strap idea worked so good, I just kept using it. Actually, it worked awesome, so I can't complain too much. Just be careful. Just be careful.
As you can see, that's pretty much the thing. We got it pretty well where it's going to be at. It's a little bit off here and there, but it's kind of all still pliable, still flexible. You can see how we increased the distance here, so it should drop the tank down a little bit. So next is to put it up there and see how she fits. I'll have to mark, and then we'll mark the holes so we can drill the holes and get it mounted up there. More test fitting, more messing with stuff.
Here I'm trying to figure out a way to keep the gas tank from falling down when I disconnect the straps. So I just grabbed a ratchet strap and ratcheted it up there, and that seemed to do pretty good. Allowed me to take those straps off without losing the gas tank.
Alright, so now we're going to mark these holes on my other piece. So what we do is, my tank's 29 inches. 29 inches. Tank's 29 inches. I want to go out probably a ½ inch on each side. So I'm gonna angle up a little bit on the outside. If not, it's a little more. So my piece of tank is 30 3/4. All right, so my width on my tank is, or my skid on the width on my skid plate is 30 and 31 3/4. So like actually gives me quite a bit. So the center of that, half of 31 3/4 is 15 and like 0.875. So so I know 0.75 is 9. What the heck? 31, 15, and 0.875. 3/4 is 75. So I guess it's like 7/16 or something like that. Close enough. So 15. What's the middle of our tank? So the middle of our tank is going to be half 29 is 14 and a half. 14 and a half. Let's mark 14 and a half. So that's the middle of our tank. So put that there. Yep. And we're going to put a mark. And a half here. All right. So 14 and a half minus, or sorry, 15 and basically 7/8 minus 14 and a half is like 1 inch and 3/8. So what we'll do is we'll add 1 inch and 3/8 to all of our measurements. So we're going to measure from the edge of here to these bolts, and the edge of here to these bolts, because we want to measure from the same spot. And then we will just add 1 inch and 3/8. The difference in the 15 and 7/8 and the 14. So basically, the first bolt is 5 7/16. 5 7/16. Second bolt is 6 7/8. So first measurement is 5 7/16. 5 7/16. Here, and then we add 1 inch, so it's 6 7/16, and then 3/8. 1, 2, 3. So ends up being 6, and how many over 16ths that is? 13/16. So 6, 13/16. Next one. Yeah. 6 7/8. 6 7/8 plus 1 inch, which makes 7 7/8 plus 3/8 is 1, 2, 3, 8 1/4. So now I'm just going to double check myself. So make sure the first measure, so I just measured in 1 inch and 3/8, which is what I had on all these. All right, I did that because I don't have my drill. I lent my drill, and this is a hardened bit, but it's not the right bits for the stainless steel. So I needed to get it started. So hopefully this will work.
So the diff cover hits the skid plate. So I actually have to cut out part of the skid plate here to make clearance for the diff cover to go up.
Roughly. Because it's only this part right here. The part that sticks out. And I'll probably clearance it a little bit more than necessary. So the other part is I can tell on the tank where it's at also. So anyway, so that's what we're gonna do next. So I've got it all marked. So I will pull it back down and then we'll cut it again. All right, so that's that. Clean out the inside a little bit, and then I'm actually going to use them straps, but I'm not going to put the nut between the skid plate and the end. If I'd even thought that I was going to do that, I would have just made this the same exact size as those straps, and then I would have just dropped it, you know, 1/4 inch. But now it's dropped to like 1/2 inch, which is too much. So the only crappy thing is going to be kind of a pain in the butt to get the straps on there and held in place, the tank held in place with this all in there at the same time. I don't know how I'm going to do it exactly yet. So without the tank falling out through. I don't know. I'm probably going to fight it. That's probably going to suck. So yeah, you got to watch that. You're going to watch me struggle, because that's going to be what it's going to be. All right, you guys ready to watch me struggle? Here we go. All right, so we've got to make sure that gonna get noisy, that the diff clears the skid plate stuff. I don't know if you can tell, but that actually clears. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of a tough spot. I can just barely see. Perfect, sweet. Hitting right there. Okay, so I got to cut that off all the way back to here. All right, so here to here. You're not going to get a chance to see the straps across the top. Either the battery died or ran out of memory card or something like that. So it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Just run straps across. I use the same bolts that went up from the bottom. If that's doable for you, then great. If not, then you'll have to figure out some way to strap across the top. I would strap across the top just simply to keep it from falling forward, or at least get something to stop the tank from going up as you, if you roll or flip or sitting upside down. You don't want that thing out of its spot messing something up. So that's it. Fairly straightforward. Those are nice, easy projects to do. You can mess them up 100 times if you need to. They usually take only about a weekend. I did that in a day. It was a long day, but it was a day, so it wasn't too awful bad. When you start something, it's nice to see a finished product relatively soon. It makes for a nice break between a long portion of something you're doing where you're not seeing a whole lot of results. For me, it's a nice little breakup between doing the wiring, and because that's pretty monotonous, it's tedious, it's boring, and it's time consuming. And so it's a whole lot of something for not a whole lot of visual. It's nice when you get done, but during the process, you just don't get to see a whole lot as you progress through the project. So these are nice, break stuff up, short period of time, doesn't take very long, a good weekend, you can finish it up, and then you got something to show for it. So it makes you feel like you're making some progress on your project. So if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, comment down below, hit the like button, and next week we put the body on the Jeep. So stay tuned for that. Take 2.